Hello, and welcome to the Ascension Energy Forecast on Mondays. I go live every Monday at 8 p.m. GMT, +1 because we're in British summertime, and 3 p.m. at Eastern time. That gives you an idea what time I'm live. So join me. I'll be starting in a few minutes. I'll just give you all a moment to see the live has started. But today's topic is going to be about creating from the desert. I know this is an interesting topic. But what I liked about it was I actually discovered that I actually could resonate with it more than I perhaps would want to, but it was interesting to see what came up. So when I do these talks, it's channeled. I tune into the energy, it gives me a message, and then I meditate with it or take soul journeys with it until I get to the point of understanding what the message is. So it came down in 3 loads this time over the last few days. I started on Friday and I just let it gently percolate down through me to where we are today. So I have a few different examples to share. I thought if I shared some examples, then maybe that might relate to what you guys are noticing too. So we've just come out of the Scorpio full moon, and we've got the Beltane and the 5-5 portals. We've had a lot of energetic shifts this week. Last week, or I should say, we started this 5 weeks ago. And the first message I got was to do with valuing your creative process. Then we went into the importance of obedience. Then we went into the process of contemplation. Then we talked about sexual energy as part of the life force needed for creativity. And this week we're talking about creating from the desert. So think about that for a moment. What does desert mean to you? So I'll start giving you an idea. I've put my Libyan desert glass on. This is a tektite that was created in the desert. So I thought I'd bring that to bring the energy with us today. So what do you think the desert means to you as a creative? Now, if you've watched the previous videos, you'll know that being creative isn't about artistic, musician type creativity. We're talking about the creative life force energy that you need to make your life abundant. Because when I sat down and asked to my guides or to the universe to show me what abundance really meant, financial, money type abundance, not just abundance of spirituality or good vibes or good people, I wanted to know specifically financial. Then what it told me was that creativity, our unique frequency inside our body, was what we needed to be able to tap into in order to be able to sell ourselves, present ourselves to the world, and therefore do an exchange that makes money. So it kind of makes sense. So it kind of, for us, for the last few weeks that we've been going through this journey, I've been asking lots of people what they sensed about this. And it makes sense that if you're focusing on abundance, then that's very much an energy out perspective. You're looking outside of yourself for the abundance. Whereas if you're focusing on your creative energy, then you're moving back into energy in. So you're sitting inside you, looking at what do you have in you, what do you value about who you are, your unique frequency, and how you can bring that through to the world. So I've got some people online with me on Zoom, and I've got the questions. I'm just checking out the questions in the chat box up on YouTube. So if you have any questions, then do put them into the messages. So if you enjoyed what I've been doing so far, then please share these videos, subscribe, make sure you get notified every time I go live or put a new video up, so that we can share this message with everyone. Because in this age that we're in now, it's moving into the more you are in tune with your own creative life force energy, your unique frequency, the easier it'll be for you to adapt and move with the current times. So Marta's saying, yes, love the desert. Yeah, I kind of like the desert too. But in this sense, then it's going to be interesting to see what we all think about the desert in terms of our creativity. So if we start with thinking of what does a desert represent in this creative force, then to be in the desert would be looking at a very hard environment, a very tough environment, and wondering if you're able to make it through. You're wondering how you're going to grow what you want in that environment. You're wondering if anything you plant is going to actually bear fruit. You're in the desert, yeah? So this much creation from the desert for me was very much a lesson in when things are tough, when times are hard, can you still thrive? That's what it meant to me. So how does that sound to you? And I feel that, so Marta's saying, It means infinite possibilities. Oh, wow, the opposite. That's really cool. Because there is that, it's like a hidden energy that's hidden in there, which is what we're going to talk about today. So you've obviously gone straight into the hidden aspect of that. That's brilliant. So if we consider the desert and you're standing there in the desert, then the first question I have is, imagine, just close your eyes and imagine you're standing in the desert and notice your first reaction. Is your first reaction one of, I can cope, I can move through this, I know what to do? And then just notice if you have a bag with you. Are you standing in the desert alone with nothing? Are you standing in the desert with a bag on your back? And maybe you've got some tools in there, but you don't know what to do with them or how to use them. Or maybe, like Marta, maybe you're the one standing in the actual desert with a bag of tools on your back and you know how to use them. You know all your life experiences up to this point are in that bag. And even though the landscape looks really harsh and empty, you know that in the bag, you've got everything you need to deal with the situation right now. So are you 1, 2, or 3? Standing there alone, standing with a bag of tools you're not sure about, or standing there with a bag of tools and know exactly how to use them? And obviously, the aim would be to be in position of 3, because that is how we deal with hardship. That's how we deal with the scarcity and the difficulty that the world is seeing right now. So I could see then from that why this message was so important. I could see why the desert represented what we're seeing in the world right now, basically. So the important thing to know as well is you may be starting off, so that obviously could start as a desert, but also you could be going through a transformation. You know, the 5-5 portal was a big shifting us up into the new version of us. And that could have been moving you out of what you thought was lush pastures and suddenly throwing you into the desert and saying, start again. So that could be one of the reasons you ended up in the desert. And that's normal. That's part of our, you know, some of us call it the dark night of the soul or the void. It's that kind of process we go through spiritually, but it also then can show up as a desert in terms of our 3D existence and how we're going to move forward. So you might find yourself sitting there going, what next? Where am I supposed to go? I don't even know. There's no landmarks to aim at. And all of these are symptoms of you being in the desert right now. So let me know in the comments, how many of you feel like you're either going into the desert or coming out the other side or are currently in the desert right now. And while you're in the desert, the whole point is it's a test. It's a test of faith. It's asking you to trust that you have the power, you have all the tools you need to be able to manage the desert. So how many of you believe that what's meant for you stays with you and what's meant not to be in your life is taken away? And if we apply that to this desert scenario, you start to get a feeling for what this is trying to teach us. So that's the main soul lesson this week. So the strength that we have is the bag on our back. And the challenge that we're going to have is belief in ourselves, belief that we can do this. And I also feel that even though it's a belief in ourselves, it's a belief that you can be more. I notice often when I ask people, what's your dream? What do you really want to achieve in life? And they can't articulate it. It's not something people have put thought into. They don't know what they don't have. They don't know what they could be based on what they've got. Some people have settled, so then have stopped looking altogether. Others have tried different ways of looking, but haven't quite found it. So when we're in that kind of transformation of looking to a new dream, part of the challenge, I think, is actually defining what that dream is. And that's what the last few weeks has been teaching us, is how to connect to our soul whispers, because the soul really does know what your biggest version is. And it's been trying to whisper to you all this time to nudge you, to encourage you to go big and to start stepping up into your ideal life, you know, to serve in the way you're meant to serve, to shine your unique frequency so brightly that you start attracting the people around you and you start doing the work you're meant to do. So if you find yourself in the desert now, it's not a backward step, it's a preparation for the next phase. So how do you feel about that? What does that make you think? So I've been thinking about some different kind of examples of deserts, just to help you kind of get a feeling for the different times in our life we've been in a desert and see what you think about this. So the first thing I thought about was when you go to school to learn something new. Effectively, you are standing there in a classroom of something new that you've never learned before. And this can be quite hard for people who might be experts in one thing and then suddenly go into some new area and stand there as the new person, the beginner. So I used to teach dance. I started obviously as a dancer myself. And despite having ballet as a background, I went into partner dancing. And I remember the first time I went to a class on my own, didn't know anybody, I was scared and fearful. And that was kind of like stepping into a desert. I could see all these dancers, they were amazing. They were doing such an amazing show, kind of just dancing socially, that it left me wondering, would I ever manage that? And I kept trying. Luckily, I'm not one to be afraid of making mistakes or making a fool of myself. I know that I learn a lot through doing that. So I kept trying. But there was a point at which you do wonder, am I ever going to get this? And that's the path of any beginner, really. And one of the teachers said to me, I think it was a couple of months after I started, they just said to me that they saw I was a natural performer. And it's quite an innocent statement. And I remember being quite shocked by it because, you know, I was a beginner. I felt clumsy. I felt all over the place. I didn't even feel like I could master the dance. But that one statement stayed with me so much through all my dance experience. And to me, that would be an example of a single flower in the desert. I was there feeling a bit lost, didn't know my direction, didn't know what I was there for, made some beautiful people, beautiful friends, but still couldn't quite manage this dance. And then suddenly somebody gave me this flower. And just by that one gift, through that one statement, I was able to continue to be in the desert and be comfortable. It gave me hope that the level I was at now was not indicative of the level I could be. So that's an example of one desert I could think of. So if you think of something you're learning right now, or maybe you're thinking of starting to study something new, then you might be going through this kind of desert experience now. So see if you can find one thing that somebody has told you that you'll have as a tool. Remember that bag on your back? One thing in that bag that you can use as a tool that will help you be your anchor to get through this desert phase until you get to the oasis, the other side, which is when you've mastered all of those learning skills. So that's one thing I thought of. Another thing I thought of, because you see me here now talking on camera, looking quite natural. I'm actually petrified of the camera. It was 2020 before I finally stood up and decided I was going to conquer my fear. And I booked myself an acting class, and it was in London, which is about 40 miles away. And I booked it the same day, so I couldn't change my mind. And I jumped in the car and I was almost in tears going there. So this was another one of those sort of like desert experiences. Remember, this is creativity. We're talking the desert of creativity. I didn't know if I was going to be able to even look at a camera without bursting into tears. And again, it took just one person to say something, which was not that my acting skills were amazing, but they were really clever in how they brought all of the students up and then told each of us what emotional quality that we brought to the camera that allowed us to hook onto one thing. Again, that one flower in the desert that would allow us to continue and give us the confidence to carry on. So I hope those two little examples about teaching gives you an idea of how to get yourself through the desert. I think that's quite good advice to get that journal of people's feedback on you. If you're starting a new business, you know, we often see people telling us, have a journal, keep all the positive results that you've had in there, so that when you're having this dry spell of no clients or you don't feel like you're progressing, then you can go back to this journal and look at what people said. But many of us have got this happening all through our lives. So we don't just have to do it if we're business owners, we can do this for anything. Because whilst you might not think you're here to create a business, you are here to share your energy in some form, whether that's with an employer, to get a job, to get a promotion, whether it's with your family, to have more intelligent conversations around the dinner table, whatever it is, whatever project you are deciding that it is your mission or vision to birth, there's going to be challenges and desert periods. So moving into that phase of recognizing just one good thing and just focusing on that one flower. And who knows, the chain of flowers that'll come up as you walk through this path through the desert will lead you to the oasis at the end. But if you don't keep following the flowers, you're just going to be ending up that lonely person standing where you were without any movement, wondering what to do next. And the soul is really good at helping us take imperfect action, because in every imperfect action, we're starting to learn something new about ourselves. Yes, making mistakes. yes, doing things wrong, yes, upsetting people, but progressing. And that's all we can ever hope for anything that we're doing when it comes to creating our lives and creating our businesses that we want and becoming the visionary and the thought leader for others, is to keep moving, no matter how hard or how dry or how arid the whole desert might look around you, to find a way to keep moving. So another example that I thought about is to do with health, because I have chronic fatigue. So I had a desert of lack of energy. And that actually came from another situation, which was overwork. So I'll start with the overwork first, because I've been thinking a lot about burnout. So burnout to me is another desert situation when you're completely burnt out, hence chronic fatigue. And what I was thinking was that, does burnout come from overactivity, or does it come from not having a soul vision? And I thought, well, I had a soul vision. I had a company vision and we were working towards that. But then I thought, well, was it the right soul vision? Is that why I got burnt out? So it's possible to be moving towards a vision, but still being in the desert, because maybe you're aiming for the wrong type of outcome. You're aiming, or you're in the wrong pathway and you're going in the wrong direction. So think about what your vision is right now, what your soul vision might be, and then really go deep inside and think, is that really what you want? Do you really want that promotion at work, or do you want to have a completely different job that allows you to be more creative? Do you really want to fit in with something, maybe a family arrangement or some other aspect of your life, when there's something else that your heart is tugging and pulling you towards? Then those could be examples of feeling like you've got a direction, but still being in the desert, because you're still not being nourished or nurtured in what you're doing. And for me, the creativity of the company was there, but I didn't value my input. And because I didn't value my input, nobody else did either. And yes, you can blame everybody around you for not recognizing how brilliant we all are, but it's also our duty to demonstrate to others what value we bring. And from that period, it step by step, as most burnout happens, little by little, I ended up completely burnt out. And for the last almost 10, 15 years, I've had chronic fatigue, which is a constant battle. But in the process of having chronic fatigue, it's allowed me more time to sit and be in the desert, but to pay so much attention to every grain of sand, to notice what moves through the desert, to look what's underneath the desert, that it's allowed me to build up a toolkit that I perhaps would not have built up if I hadn't have had that desert experience. So sometimes when we have illnesses, we can spend time focusing on the illness, or we can try and focus on how can we make the best of the situation we're in. So for me, that was a desert period, but also it was a deep time of contemplation and reflection as well. So then the company was the wrong vision, or at least maybe the vision was correct, but the people I was doing it with and the way I was doing it was wrong, which resulted in the deserts. That was one, like, think about your work and how you're doing it and why you're doing it, and see if it's causing you to feel drained and tired and lacking motivation. Then you're probably in a desert period at work. And then the illness that came off the back of it was a more positive desert experience, because through the illness and sitting and being still and being bored, it allowed me to build all the tools that I'm presenting with you now. None of this would exist without that chronic fatigue. And I feel like it was teaching me about my value and about the wrong vision, and how it's about our soul expression, because that's all our soul vision is. Our soul wants to be expressed, and that's the creative flow coming out through us, and the life force comes alive when our soul is being expressed. And that's the creativity state that we really want to get into. So needed to hear these words at that time. Thank you, giving hope. And I think we all need hope right now. That's part of what this desert is trying to say, is don't focus on the desert. This is just a period of time, and there are ways to get out of it. So for me, for work, I think the advice I'd give to anybody that's feeling that they're in the desert at work is to be bold and start looking at other jobs, but also to turn inwards and connect to your own creative flow first, and realize that you are here to offer your services to a company to enhance that company. And the more you contain yourself, or the more you The more you step into who you are, the more you'll know what that is, and the more you'll be able to articulate it correctly. And once you get comfortable with you and who you are and your authentic self, it's much easier to go for interviews and try different jobs. And the same if you're thinking of setting up a business and doing something new, it's the same process. What do you need as your first step? Look at yourself, look at your creativity, look at your past experiences, look in your bag to see what you've gained through life that you can use now to help you get through this patch that is the desert. And we will go through many deserts in our lives, so it's not just a one-off. This skill is reusable all the time. So I guess those were the main points. If anybody resonates with those or can think of any other desert moments that you've experienced, then let me know. I can't think of other examples at the moment. That I think for me, I realized the desert is when I learned the most. It's that time when I really had to look for value in when there was nothing. And sometimes when you're really busy and you're really focused or super busy at work, then that's when you don't get to notice the stuff. So it's good to put or even plan time in as part of your self-development work and your transformation work to have a desert experience. And I guess we could call retreats deserts, couldn't we? We all go to a retreat to have that time out, to nurture ourselves and to have that nothingness so that we can build something new out of the nothingness. So how are we all doing? Okay, so here's one. Heartbreak. Yeah. Love. I think deserts come between having something and losing it, I guess. So love would fit. That's a nice one. During heartbreak, when you've been in a relationship and it felt all full, and then suddenly that person is taken away and you're then left in a very empty state of a desert. So another one. That's a good one. I hadn't thought of that, even though I've experienced that one too. So think of the desert and finding how you tune into your creativity to really help you get you through the desert. So before we finish, there's one other aspect to consider, is that you're not the only one that's ever been in the desert. There's lots of people who've been in the desert, people who've been in there, learned the way out of it. And for me, when I was doing my dancing, then obviously I had teachers to help guide me through, so I wasn't completely lost. I took private sessions, mentoring, rather than just classes, because I wanted to know how I could get through the desert rather than working in groups. Groups are great, but some one-on-one always helps too. So think of this as, who has got the solution for what you want to achieve? And how can you get to hang out with them? Even if you get to watch their videos or get to watch them on, read their books, maybe. It doesn't matter how you get connected with them, but who has done what you're trying to do and who can you hang out with? And think of this as somebody who can lead you through the desert, who's already worked out the paths and knows the techniques and can share them with you as well. Because when we are really feeling lost in the desert, then we need that hope to hold on to. So find somebody that can guide you out. So the important thing is, when we're in the desert, is not to go for instant gratification. It can feel really uncomfortable in the heat maybe, or it can feel uncomfortable not knowing if you're ever going to get out of there. And it can be so easy just to grab the nearest thing, the nearest quick win, the solution that says, yeah, we can fix this in a day. Let's just do this. Because often those are not going to lead you to your best destination. They will make you feel better in the moment and they will guide you a little bit of the way, but they're not necessarily going to allow you to reach your biggest, best version of yourself. Because that takes time and it involves you going inwards and learning about yourself. So even if we have guides, we don't want to necessarily do everything the guide says. We need to be able to discern which parts of what the guide is offering suits us, and then turn that into our own action plan and turn it into our own integrated understanding. Because what we're aiming for here is, like I said, that desert experience is feeling so fully in your body, not popping out because you're frightened, but staying so fully in your body so that you can face the challenges ahead and see the opportunities as they come up. So no shortcuts and no instant gratification. And then don't use sort of achievements as the way to mark your progress. So don't use qualifications or money externally, because you can make money quickly and still end up back in the desert afterwards. You know, that's what happened with my company. I was making quite a lot of money, but I was still in the desert. So it's taking that time to really connect to your soul vision. And if you follow the steps that we've done over the last few weeks, we started off with valuing your creative process, which was about noticing your ideas and connecting to them, recognizing how you bring a different energy to problem solving and solution finding. We talked about obedience, listening to the whispers, not ignoring them, but listening to them and doing something with them. And that takes courage, which is kind of what we're talking about now. And the contemplation, we have to take time out to sit, to listen to our soul whispers, and it will tell us what to do next. And then it becomes trust, because when we trust that we're taking a step in, even if it's in the dark, in the right direction, well, then we are starting to move towards our soul vision, especially if it's come from inside of us. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how to navigate any deserts that are coming up for you right now. And if you want to go back and follow all the other videos up until now, I created a playlist, and it's called The Creative Path to Abundance. And the reason I called it that was when I started this, effectively, I started in a desert. I decided I was going to do these on a Monday, and I didn't know what it was going to be. I tuned into my soul whispers. It told me the first one. And now 5 weeks later, I can see that it's a pathway, like a creative pathway to your abundance. But I didn't know that when I started. But I listened and I took the step and I started to learn. Every step I took wasn't just about me presenting it to you. I got to embody it first and to listen to it first so that I could share it. Then I took the next step. And it's only now by week 4 that I started to realize it was all creativity based. And I think that's really exciting as well, because we are in May, and May is really bringing in this energy of you deserve it all. You deserve to have your dreams met and filled. And you have to learn to shine your light. Doesn't matter if you're standing in the desert, you need to learn to shine your light. The desert is not you. It doesn't define you. The desert is just a stage you're at. You are always you. Doesn't matter what stage you're in, no matter where you are, you will always have all those inner resources and all that power to have for your use anytime you want it. Don't let your situation or the hardships around you turn you off to that. And if you can learn step by step by step to shine brighter and brighter and brighter, then you'll find that that will be the light that guides you through the desert. So that's the end for today. So this week I've got a busy week, so I thought I'll share some of my events this week. So any questions while I'm sharing, then please. Oh, I got a message on YouTube that I almost missed. Yeah, so just got a message from Javier saying he wants to do less and less to have more space to create. Yeah, then the desert works really well as a concept then, to be in the desert and just allow yourself that emptiness to build what you want. And I think us practicing to turn up our light is going to be like the key for this month, so that we can really start to grow into who we're meant to be. So this week is Tuesday, so it's tomorrow. We've got the full moon in Scorpio. So then we're doing some karmic releases, because this is a time of shadow work and karmic loop removals, basically. So we'll be doing that tomorrow. And that's part of my membership, but it's also, you can just attend as a one-off, but it's actually a better deal if you join the membership, because you get some other stuff and replays involved. Then this week also, that's for my big beginner membership. Then I have my full membership, where we're going to be focusing on shining your light. So I'll be going through the energies for May, and we'll all be recalibrating, absorbing the templates as a transmission to really absorb this energy to give us the courage we need to step up and shine our light. So that'll be Thursday. And next Monday, I'll be back. And I don't know what the topic's going to be yet, but I'll find out next week what the topic is, as I then step into the next stage of whatever this process is going to be. But to finish, I just wanted to say, when I started this series, which is, I can call it a series now, but I couldn't in the beginning, I had to trust and believe that something was being birthed while I was doing this. But technically now, when I look back at this, you know, half an hour is not long to explain all of this stuff, but it could be a course. And it's the same with the full moon. Whenever I encourage people to join the full moon session, at the end of the full moon, I encourage them to share posts, to go out and just share something on social media that they've learned. Because again, those could turn into the next course for them or the next business idea for them. If you're working with energy and constantly sharing those whispers that are coming in, even if it doesn't make sense today, give it time, let it grow, let that desert period know that you've planted the seeds and just know that it's happened, and then wait to see what will arise for you. So I hope this month brings you lots of fruition out of the desert, and that you find your way to your light so that you can shine more brightly and bring your message, bring your whole self, your authentic self to the world to help inspire others to be leaders, to be visionaries, to start looking at new ways of being that are more in alignment with our well-being and our creative needs and our soul expression. So thank you all for listening. I'm going to go and join the people on Zoom now. And every week, if you do want to join us for the think tank, then just message me so that I can add you in and send you the Zoom link. So basically, we just chat a little bit more about the content that we've spoken about, and we do a Q&A and we share each other's views. Again, getting people used to expressing their version of what I've said, because often we're a bit shy about sharing these insights. And I'm trying to give us all a platform where we can do more of that. So thank you all for listening, and I'll see you next Monday.